This evening. Grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. During this season of Lent, we journey with Jesus to the cross. And so it would be appropriate for us to stop along the way, to pause and meditate on the places and the events of Christ's passion. Tonight we begin at Bethany. Bethany is a small village on the eastern slope on the Mount of Olives, which was at the time of Jesus about 3 kilometers from Jerusalem proper. It was the home of Jesus' dear friends, Mary and Martha and Lazarus. During Holy Week, Jesus was staying in Bethany and commuting in to Jerusalem. It would be very similar to having someone from out of town coming and staying in Quequebeca or in Murillo or in Roslyn, just outside of Thunder Bay, because all of the hotels in Thunder Bay were full for some major event. There are a number of reasons that we will first meditate on Bethany, because it seems that events at Bethany could have gotten the ball rolling. There are 3 events at Bethany that really could focus our attention on going towards the cross. First, we get in John chapter 11 news that Jesus hears that his friend Lazarus was ill. Now, instead of rushing to heal him, making the journey to get there in time, Jesus stays in Judea 2 more days. It was already known that the Jews wanted to stone Jesus, so perhaps it looked like Jesus was afraid to return to Jerusalem. But no, this was not the case, because after 2 days, Jesus tells his disciples, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him." He knows that his friend Lazarus has died, and he's going to go raise him from the dead. Jesus, who is the resurrection and the life, went to Lazarus' tomb. When Jesus arrived, Lazarus had been in the grave 4 days already. His body would already be decomposing. But Jesus calls his friend Lazarus out from the grave. "Lazarus, come forth." And the dead man rose, and he departed the tomb. Now, this was not like the resurrections that Jesus had done up in Galilee, in a little town like Nain, where hardly anybody's there. This is happening just outside of Jerusalem, just under the noses of the religious leaders, and they did not take kindly to this event. Word of Christ's power was spreading like wildfire, and people were believing that Jesus is indeed the Messiah, the Christ. It didn't take long for word to get back to the chief priests and the high priest and the Pharisees. And they had a meeting. They met, and Caiaphas, the high priest, declared, "It is better for you that one man should die, not that the whole nation should perish." And from that day, they made plans to put Jesus to death. So this event at Bethany could be seen as the instigator of them wanting to put Jesus to death. Jesus and his disciples went into a wilderness area out to the outskirts of Jerusalem, to a place called Ephraim, and he stayed there until it was time to return for the Passover. And again, Jesus returned to Bethany and Bethphage. And the second event, which started the ball rolling for Christ's journey to the cross, is one which we are all familiar with: Palm Sunday. Jesus entering from the Mount of Olives, entering on a humble donkey, entering with the praise of people crying out, "Hosanna to the Son of David, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." with people removing their cloaks and laying it on the ground, and people taking palm branches and laying them on the ground. The people were receiving Jesus as a king, in the same way that David had entered into Jerusalem on a donkey and Solomon had entered into Jerusalem on a donkey. Jesus was entering as their king. Jesus from Nazareth, the King of the Jews. And so you could say this journey from Bethany also got the ball rolling, leading to Jesus' death. But the third event, which was our gospel lesson, also took place at Bethany. Probably in celebration of Lazarus' resurrection from the dead, Mary and Martha and Lazarus host a feast at the home of Simon the leper for Jesus. Mary comes in with an alabaster flask of ointment of costly nard, and she breaks the top of the bottle off, and she pours it on Jesus, and it rolls down him similar to the way the oil anointed Aaron in our psalm this evening. She poured it over Jesus' head. She anointed Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. Now, if the first event at Bethany, the resurrection of Lazarus from the dead, wasn't enough, or Jesus' triumphal entry wasn't enough to get things going towards the cross, this would be. You see, Judas Iscariot grumbled. This gift was worth 300 denarii, almost a year's wages. And he grumbles. He grumbles that this money could have been, this item could have been sold and the money given to the poor. Not that he actually cared about the poor, but that he was in charge of the money bags and would help himself. Jesus defends Mary's act of devotion. Leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you want, you can do good to them. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for burial. And it was because of this rebuke that Judas went to the chief priests in order to betray Jesus to them. But this act of devotion, Mary's act of devotion, was necessary because the crucifixion was imminent. Jesus was going to die. He would die on a cross and be hastily buried before the Sabbath on Good Friday, before the sun set. There wouldn't have been time to properly anoint his body before the grave. And there wasn't time until Easter Sunday to go back. But by the time Easter Sunday rolls around, it's too late. The women arrive to the tomb and find that it is empty. Christ was not there. He has risen from the grave. So what Mary did in her act of devotion was to prepare our Lord for burial. For you and for me, as we meditate on the events at Bethany, it is good for us to recognize that we are called to give thanks to God, to appreciate the beauty. Sometimes we grumble about the cost of things also, and don't accept the gift that the Lord has given to us, and that we can indeed be extravagant in glorifying Him, in praising Him. Common sense would dictate you don't take off your cloak and put it in front of a beast of burden that's walking down the road. But for Christ, the King of Kings, it is good for us to give praise to Him. Dear saints of God, these events at Bethany remind us who Jesus is. First off, He is the one who has power over life and death. And he has come to give us life without end. That just as Lazarus was raised, we too will be raised on the last day. But more than that, it brings us comfort that he is the one who can raise and will raise our loved ones, just as Mary and Martha appreciated what Jesus did for their brother, Lazarus. We get in this event from Bethany and Bethphage that Jesus is the King of the Jews, that he is our King, the King who God has sent, who is the King of kings and the Lord of lords. And finally, we are reminded that it is good to be extravagant because God has been extravagant with us. Jesus has been gracious to us with great extravagance, forgiving you of all of your sins. Each and every one of these events lead us once more to Calvary, towards Christ's sacrifice for you. God's blessings as you meditate this Lenten time on the places of the Passion.